Thanks, fellas. This is obviously a really tough loss. Devin, how frustrated are you for Chris right now?
Next question, please.
16 seasons. Chris Paul has been seeking a championship. It took Paul 16 seasons just to reach the NBA Finals for the first time of his career. As a guy who, if you look at his numbers and his career accolades, he has one of the most complete resumes we've ever seen. It's just, the championship has always eluded him. Not winning the title, despite this year being the best chance he's ever had, and probably the best chance he'll ever have at winning it, this is heartbreaking. On the other side of the story, we saw a superstar become an all-time legend. Giannis has always been drawn to Milwaukee, but it wasn't until recent years when he started to get impatient. The question for him was, could the Bucks organization actually build a championship roster around him? Year after year, we saw them rank near the top of the standings, but shockingly get knocked out early. It all came together this time. This 2021 Finals was unique in more ways than one. For the first time since 1971, no player on either team has won a championship before. It's nearly unprecedented. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and today, let's wrap it all up. What made the 2021 Finals so good, but also, why was it a travesty? Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe. If you like the content, drop a sub or a like, and thank you so much for the support. To start things off, let me just say this. Throughout my entire life of watching the NBA, this is the only time where I felt like I wanted both teams to win. I was completely fine with either team winning. Both teams deserved it, the players deserved it, they had an incredible journey. Neither of them were favorites to reach the finals, and they might not have if it weren't for injuries, but here they came. Why do I think the series was so glorious? Well, with all the super teams winning titles in recent years, it's a breath of fresh air to see two teams whose primary stars were homegrown: Booker in Phoenix and Giannis in Milwaukee. Believe it or not, these two teams go way back. They've had a similar history. All the way back in 1968, when the NBA expanded from 12 teams to 14 teams. The two teams they added were the Phoenix Suns and Milwaukee Bucks. But it was the Bucks that got the upper hand. They won the coin toss to get the #1 pick of the 1969 NBA draft, which they used to draft Lou Alcindor. You might know him as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. These two expansion teams joined the NBA at the same time. Two small market teams who struggled at the beginning in a landscape where it was almost impossible for a small market team to succeed, just to have a stable tenure in the league. In those times, it was common to see teams fold and disband, as the cities don't generate enough revenue. If you weren't in Boston or LA or New York, you didn't have much of a chance to keep your team in the same city. Yet, over 50 years later, the Suns and Bucks defied all odds and they're still here, but it wasn't easy. In those 50 years, before 2021, the Bucks had only won a single championship. That was in 1971 with Kareem and Oscar Robertson. They had a total of 2 finals appearances in 1971 and 1974. For the Suns, they haven't won a championship in their entire franchise history, but they also had 2 finals appearances in their 50-plus year history. So with a combined total of just 4 finals appearances between them, along with a phenomenal unexpected playoff run, the Suns and Bucks were on a collision course. As a fan of the game and as someone who loves to see the underdog succeed, this was great for the NBA. As the series began, the basketball we watched was absolutely solid, but the first few games were blowouts. It picked up steam by Game 4 when the game started to get more competitive. By the end, Giannis finished with numbers we haven't seen since Shaq. 35 and 12, that's freaking ridiculous. One of only 5 other players to score 50 in a finals game. It was by far the best series of his career, and he finally crushed the doubters. In previous years, they were critical of his playoff performances, how he gets shut down by competent defenses, how he struggles too much at the foul line, and his often shaky jumper was always a point of criticism. All of that was put to rest. The Bucks winning was one of the best feel-good stories in the NBA we've seen in a long time. A guy who came from nothing, from a foreign country with absolutely no money to his name. This was an amazing success story. But as great of a series this was on paper, what made it such a travesty? Well, there's always a loser. I thought this would be Chris Paul's year. Everything seemed like the perfect circumstances for the Suns to win. While they entered the playoffs as the 2 seed, even in the first round, the Lakers were favored against them. People point to the injuries that the Lakers and Clippers and even the Nuggets suffered, with losses to major players on their squads, and I've seen people use that as a way to discredit the Suns, saying things like, oh, if the West was actually healthy, the Suns wouldn't be anywhere near the finals. While it is true it's been an unprecedented year for injuries, we still see injuries every season. Paul himself was a victim of injuries in the past as well. He might have reached the finals with the Rockets if he didn't get injured. The Suns saw this opportunity and took advantage of it, like they should. Heck, they even had a 2-0 series lead, but blew it away. In fact, it was the 4th time in Paul's career where his teams blew a 2-0 series lead. He's the only player in history to blow a 2-0 lead 4 different times. That's the most out of anyone. While most of it isn't Paul's fault, in some instances, it was. We remember that time when his team was up 3-1 and he disappeared in the 4th quarter. The critics always blamed him for not taking over when it matters the most, whether it was warranted or not. It wasn't any different this time either. Against the Bucks, between games 2 and 4, Paul had a combined 15 turnovers in those 3 games. That's uncharacteristic for him. He's always been known as someone who takes care of the ball very well, compared to other elite point guards. In the pivotal Game 4, Paul had 5 turnovers, including a very important one down the stretch. The Suns were down 2 with 40 seconds left to go, and Paul just fumbles it. Overall, he played very well, including an absolute dominant Game 1, but moments like these are ones we'll remember for a long time. Of course, Devin Booker played so well too, but also had some games where he shot horribly. However, for him, this was his first playoff run, so he gets off the hook, for now. Credit to the entire Bucks defense, especially Jrue Holiday. His acquisition was exactly what the Bucks needed, a guy who can consistently pressure the ball on the perimeter. He did what Eric Bledsoe was theoretically supposed to do. According to this article, from games 2 to 5, Jrue Holiday defended Paul on 78 possessions, forcing 8 turnovers. That means about 10% of Paul's possessions resulted in a turnover whenever Holiday was guarding him. For comparison, against the Lakers, Dennis Schroeder guarded Paul for 82 possessions, but only managed to force 1 turnover. Not only that, but in those 4 games, Holiday defended Booker for 57 possessions, holding him to just 13 points on 33% shooting, 1 for 7 from 3. Because of Jrue's pressure, the Suns had trouble moving the ball after Game 2. Finally got the recognition he deserves. By far the biggest difference maker on this Bucks team compared to all the previous ones. The other unfortunate side effect of having 2 smaller market teams play in the finals was the viewership. This was another travesty. Game 1 of the finals attracted just 8.5 million viewers, a 36% drop-off compared to Game 1 of the 2019 finals. What was even worse was Game 2, which drew just 6.7 million viewers, the 3rd least watched finals game since 1974. Since the first 3 games were basically blowouts, I guess it turned people off from wanting to keep watching. That's why in Game 4, only a pitiful 5.3 million viewers tuned in. Of course, you might say, well, ratings are dropping off everywhere as people are cutting cable. But the viewership in the finals was even worse than the conference finals, which rarely ever happens. Generally speaking, the 2021 playoffs had pretty good ratings, but the finals tanked hard. Even Game 1 in the first round between the Suns and Lakers drew about as many viewers as each finals game. As great as this series was, I can't help but feel bad for Chris Paul. Guys like Booker and Ayton have the rest of their careers left, But Paul? At 36 years old, this might have been his last real chance to win the title. Unless he goes out to chase the ring, he likely won't have another shot. As I mentioned earlier, it took a perfect set of circumstances for the Suns to reach the finals. After the loss, Paul looked crushed. The reporters kept asking him how he felt, to which he responded, "A great group of guys, hell of a season, but this one's gonna hurt for a while. It'll take a while to process this or whatnot, but it's the same mentality to get back to work. I ain't retiring if that's what you're asking." Paul has the option to opt out of the final year of his contract, so he'll be a free agent. Now, the question is, if he's going to stay with the Suns or spend the twilight years of his career trying to chase the title. From what he said, it seems like he loves the organization and he loves his teammates. His time there has been the best experience of his entire NBA career. However, do the Suns want to pay him what he wants? Paul's looking for one last big payday, and I'm not sure if it's going to be in Phoenix. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video and enjoyed the NBA Finals. What's your opinion on if the Suns should keep CP3 or let him walk? I think that's the most interesting decision this offseason. You won't realize how much of an impact he makes until he's gone. Who knows if the Suns can return back to the finals without him? Let me know in the comments. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.